Hey Hotshots, Jess with Emotional Fire Academy here today to talk about how to create amazing love as a highly sensitive person. Now subscribe to my channel if you are an HSP looking for weekly tips, tricks, and tools about how to up-level your life. That is what we do here at Emotional Fire Academy. Welcome, I'm Jess, I'm your driver operator on this journey. I'm a former firefighter and master NLP practitioner. So this is a great topic because it is February. And so many HSPs are looking for love. I used to be one of them, and in my own journey into love this last year, I have a lot of great tips to share with you today and insights on how to create incredible love, toe-curling, perfect, amazing love. Not your run-of-the-mill love, not your run-of-the-mill, starts hot, burns out kind of love. So stay tuned, watch to the end, and I hope you enjoy what I have to tell you today. So I want to kind of talk first about your love languages. And keep in mind, I have not read the book. So I'm taking a very surface level approach to this, to the 5 love languages. And just a refresher, the 5 different love languages, and this is essentially, the concept is, the things, how you express love are in one or more of these different languages. And then how you want to receive love is in one or more of these different languages. And the 5 languages are words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, gifts, and acts of service. And what actually struck me about this concept I heard once that really rocked my world and made me have some pretty big realizations is that the love languages that you crave in a partner, that you are really looking for someone to give you, are the ones that you did not receive as a child. And so when you think back to your childhood and you think about the ways that your parents loved you, your caregivers loved you, and what you perceived as being missing from that then becomes the love language that we crave as an adult. And that means more to us because we didn't get it. Now, this is just something I saw passing on the internet. This is not a hardcore theory, so please take this with a grain of salt, but it makes a lot of sense because the things that then are meaningful to us as far as, expressions of love are obviously the things that would make sense that we, perceived as not getting. And then it's like when we do get them, it's like, wow, this person really loves me, really cares about me, really wants to be with me. And my question to you is about the love languages is when you are going to create amazing love, how many of the love languages do you give yourself? Because if you're looking for them from someone else, if we're screening partners and we're going through people, or we're looking at the partner maybe we're currently with or someone we're potentially going to date, and we go down through this mental checklist of, well, do they hit my 2, my 2 or 3 that are really important? Do they do this for me? And my question to you is, do you do it for yourself? Because one of the first steps, the very, very beginning thing that we want to do to create amazing love, is to start giving those things to ourselves. Because in doing that, we then start to raise our love standards. We're raising our love standards, right? We're creating a wholeness within ourselves that then somebody else out there isn't tasked with meeting, right? And so, because I used to be in this pattern, I used to see love as very transactional. It's like, well, I'm doing this for you, so you should be doing this back for me. And that was kind of something that I learned over the last year, is that the nature of that kind of love is something different than an unconditional type of love. And we're going to get into that in just a minute here. But when you raise your love standards, you start by giving that to yourself. Give yourself the love languages that you want to receive. And, give yourself words of affirmation. Tell yourself, I'm beautiful, I'm amazing, I'm wonderful, I'm smart, and believe them. Don't just say them to yourself shallowly, because you wouldn't accept them from someone else if they were inauthentic or, not genuine. So don't accept them from yourself in an inauthentic way. Say them genuinely. Do acts of service for yourself as well. Give yourself little gifts, and they don't have to be expensive, or they could be expensive, whatever you want. Lavish yourself in all of the ways that you love to be lavished by someone else. Lavish yourself and learn to appreciate that on the same level and this is really important when we start talking about the two different types of love, on the same level as if you were receiving it from someone else. So make them equivalent or higher. Like it means more to me when I give these things to myself than it does, or equal. I suggest equal. It means as much to me when I buy myself flowers as when someone else buys me flowers. Because then like you don't create this power imbalance where it only means something if he or she gives me flowers as opposed to buying flowers for myself. And then we're looking to that person to meet that for us when we could be meeting it for ourselves with equal meaning, right? With equal meaning. So when you raise your love standards, you start to give yourself the love languages that you crave. And you create a wholeness within yourself. You create a wholeness within yourself that then starts to emanate into your relationships, right? Because your main focus is you, and everything else outside of you is a reflection. I have talked about this in other videos, and I suggest if you haven't checked out last week's video, I'll put the link above. The title is Do This to Completely Transform as a Highly Sensitive Person. This next part is going to be very similar to that video, so go ahead and check it out if you haven't already. But the difference between loving from a wound and then amazing, incredible, toe-curling, soulmate love, twin flame love, is the difference between the wholeness, having achieved the wholeness as a highly sensitive person versus loving from a wound space. So what do those two feel like? What do they look like? How are they different? Just so we can learn to identify where the point of which we're loving from. So loving from a wound, again, feels very circular. And I talked about this in last week's video. It's kind of the drama addiction. And again, I use these words very loosely. Or it's just the acceptance of drama. We can talk about that. Just the acceptance and perpetuation of drama. Loving someone from a wound. When you're in a relationship, let's kind of dig deeper into this. It's going to feel kind of cyclical. Like you're going to notice getting into the same arguments all the time. You're going to notice, having the same disagreements, or even you might even find that you can mark your fights on a calendar. So I found this with other relationships where there's actually, even if the fight isn't about the same thing, like I found I started marking them, and it was every 12 days. Every 12 days. It was just like so weird. And so this actual cyclical kind of, it feels very circular. It feels very circular, and sometimes, you might be tired. You might not even notice that the fight is happening in a circular way, but it's going to feel a little bit tiring and energy draining, where you're just kind of going round and round. And that is a sign of loving from a wound, because the wound, because it's active and it's continuing to get activated over and over again in this kind of cyclical way. Also, another sign you might be loving from a wound, or loving in a way that is wound-based as a highly sensitive person, is that you need the other person. I think a lot of people confuse love. When I love you, that means I need you. I need you in my life. I will die without you. That needingness, it kind of is as the salve, right? What they're doing is then feeding into that wound. There's this neediness of like, I need to get something from you. I need your affection. I need your attention. I need you. It's this very deep longing and craving that when the other person leaves, it's devastating, right? And so that is a sign that we are loving from a wounding rather than from loving more unconditionally and creating this amazing love that I'm going to tell you about in a minute. And again, this in a relationship pattern, you're going to see it perpetuates drama, right? If the wound is left unhealed in ourselves, it will perpetuate these cyclical drama patterns that are either you're conscious or unconscious of, but you just feel drained. You're just like, this isn't working out with this person. It's just tiring. It's not life-giving. It's life-sucking. And you want to fix it, but you don't quite know how. So I just want to make you aware of these patterns, as we zoom out, the patterns from loving from a wound versus then switching into creating really amazing amazing love, the amazing love that you really deserve. And again, amazing love starts with self-love, loving yourself, giving yourself the things that you need, the love languages that you crave, that you need, consistently doing that, and then raising your love standards as to that, where you will then not get into relationships with people who you go into these wounding patterns with, right? You'll immediately identify that and nip it in the bud, or love it unconditionally and kind of love it away. But you just won't attract, you won't attract the toxicity from the person and then, in the relationship. So you'll get to these things earlier. And so again, in last week's video, the transformation video, I talked about how it feels like a more linear path. And this is also the same with romantic relationships. It's going to feel more linear. It's going to feel more fresh. It's going to feel more like you're creating together. You're moving forward together. And that kind of love perpetuates a deeper love. It's very unconditional feeling. Another thing you might find with the loving from a wound is having the splitting. Now this is common, a lot of people will label this as borderline personality disorder. I think it's I call it loving from a wound, because the wounding, the difference between I love you and I hate you, it's that deep craving from the wound and also feeling the pain of the wound that can very easily shift from I love you to I hate you. I love you to I hate you. And so that in the loving from a wound, that splitting behavior that they talk about in BPD is also very common, because that type of love, whereas the amazing love, the unconditional love, it's more steady. It's more, you don't just flip, because that type of love deepens itself naturally, right? As you progress linearly along the journey with this person, that kind of love, that unconditional love for yourself that you have primarily, then is reflected in the other person's behavior and reflected in your behavior toward the other person. It's just, you've raised your standards enough where you've marinated in this kind of unconditional love that carries into your relationship. And so, yeah, that perpetuates then this deepening and deepening of the love, and you won't have the splitting at all. You won't have this suddenly I hate you because you're not giving me what I need. It's just I love you. I fall more in love with you every day. It's a very depth. It feels much deeper. And even if you want to get deep with the loving from the wound, it will be very tumultuous. It will be that roller coastery feeling. So this is how we create amazing love. I speak from experience. I actually experienced both of these types of love with the same person last year. I started off in the beginning kind of loving from the wound. We did have a breakup, and then in the interim, starting to practice self-love, loving myself. And I have a great 3 ways to self-love. I'll link it above here in the video. Ways we can self-love and generate more self-love. I started to love myself more, prioritize myself, do acts of service, make my business my priority, make my friends my priority, make my life the priority, and loving myself, giving myself words of affirmation. So I did this that I'm telling you to do now. And like I said, I never tell you to do anything I haven't drunk my own Kool-Aid on. And from that, then this person returned to my life, and now we have this amazing cultivated love that is not needy or wound-based and just balanced. And I also talk about, in last week's video, how when you're on this more linear path as a highly sensitive person, the micromanaging, you won't have to make these huge shifts to get back on track, right? It's more of a tiny, tiny shift to get back on the path. When you feel and sense that you're off of it a little bit, it's a tiny shift to get back on, as opposed to having to do this, on the roller coaster, these massive shifts that just take a lot of time and energy and attention. So I hope that was helpful. Go ahead and check out these other videos that are linked to this one, and It's time for you to create amazing love in your life, and I believe in your ability to do that. So comment below, let me know what you thought about this video, and if you're ready to create amazing love in 2021, let me know how you're going to do that and which tips that you took away from this video today. And if you are a highly sensitive person who is looking to up-level this year and really take things to the next notch in any area of your life, be it romance, career, general emotional health, I would be happy to help you. I've had a few spots open up for my one-on-one coaching program, my Flammable to Fireproof 3-month transformational journey. So go ahead and check that out on my website, emotionalfireacademy.com today. And thanks for watching. Bye.